Inside the stories that affect you. This is Inside KELOLAND.
Good evening and welcome to Inside KELOLAND. For nearly 2 months, we have been bringing you a wide variety of stories concerning the coronavirus, from ways you can help to how you can protect yourself and family members from the illness. It has a lot of unknowns and is keeping many people home, but it's also preventing some people from seeking medical attention when they really need it. Every year, strokes take the life of 1 out of every 20 Americans. But right now, not as many people are seeking the vital treatments they may need. We have 2 special guests joining us via Zoom tonight to talk about Stroke Awareness Month and what you should know when it comes to receiving care during the pandemic. We have Dr. Sandhu and Chrissy Meyer with us. Welcome. Thank you both for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Chrissy, we'll start with you today. What are some of the warning signs of a stroke?
You know, when we talk about stroke, we always talk about needing to act fast. And if you use the acronym FAST, F-A-S-T, that can help you identify those signs and symptoms of stroke. So the F stands for face or facial drooping. A stands for arm weakness. S stands for speech difficulty. And then T means it's time to call 911. So if you see 1 or more of those symptoms, it's very important that you get medical attention and seek help right away.
And Dr. Sandhu, if you are a stroke survivor, if you've experienced that before, what does that mean for you with the COVID-19 pandemic right now? Are you at higher risk, and what should you do to take those precautions?
No, you're not at any higher risk than you were before of getting a stroke. Since we are talking about this, we'll just take a minute to talk about the recent reports that have come out of New York in one of their health systems. It's important to be aware of 2 things. It was a sequence of only 5 patients out of the thousands that have the infection in New York City, and even more that have been exposed. It is a single hospital systems experience with younger patients that had strokes that were otherwise unexplained. The one main thing, the one important thing that I want to emphasize is this was not a research paper. This was a communication to the medical community at large that this may be something. So I don't want this to be another reason for heightened concern. There's already enough on the whole nation's minds. This should not be something that yet should be considered a risk factor. It's the opposite, actually. We have actually seen less people seeking attention for stroke in these past 6 weeks or so in our hospital system. And whether you're a survivor or whether you've never had a stroke before, if you have symptoms, the ones that Chrissy just alluded to, there should be nothing that stops you. There should be no hesitance in your minds when seeking medical attention, because there's precautions that are being taken right from the emergency medical personnel standpoint all the way out to when patients transition out of our hospitals and rehabilitation centers that are over and above what the CDC and the NIH mandate. So just because there are patients that have suspected COVID or have confirmed COVID that are in the hospital doesn't mean that you will be sharing the same unit with them. They're actually physically isolated in a completely dedicated and closed unit for only COVID patients. And this whole chain of extra precautions, this actually, like I said, begins before the patients even had a chance to step foot inside the hospital, be it a clinic or the emergency room.
And doctor, are those hospitals right now here locally overrun at all with COVID patients? Are they too busy to care for stroke patients right now?
No, that is not the case. Again, we both, because of geographical factors, demographic factors, the way that our state and the region, the tri-state area is set up, and also because we learned from the successes and the failures of our peers all over the nation. We were thankfully much better prepared than a lot of other hospitals are. We are no way, shape, or form overrun by COVID patients. And this goes for people seeking care for heart attacks, strokes, anything else. There is more than enough room in the hospital. There are more than enough personnel in the hospital. There is more than enough protective equipment, both for the patients and also for the caregivers.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Chrissy, what is the American Heart Association doing this month to help educate people on strokes?
We've got a lot of resources that we're going to be pushing out through our social media channels and through media channels just to kind of educate people. Number one, to educate people who are stroke survivors, how they can protect themselves from having a second stroke. That's something that we're very concerned about, is we want to make sure that people understand the things that they need to do to prevent having another stroke. Make sure that they understand the signs and symptoms of stroke so that if they are in fact experience another stroke, they can get that treatment. But the other thing that we're doing kind of on a broader standpoint is we're kind of taking a step back in light of the pandemic and saying, what is it about this virus and what is it about this disease that seems to cause so much of a cardiovascular and vascular impact? And so our organization has invested $2.5 million into some rapid response research. And those projects were actually just announced a few minutes ago. And we're going to be kind of talking about those projects here coming over the next few weeks. But looking into what it is about this virus and how it affects the long-term prognosis of individuals as it relates to heart disease and specifically stroke.
Okay. Well, again, as May is Stroke Prevention Awareness Month, what are some things that people can do to help prevent strokes? Start with Chrissy.
So what we talk about is, coincidentally, what's good for the heart is good for the brain. And so if you're doing the things that you need to do to take care and have a healthy heart, you're also going to be taking care of your brain. So eating smart. So we want to look at a diet that's full of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, smart fats. We want to make sure we're adding those fruits and veggies, adding color to our plate at every meal. We also want to move more, and that's kind of challenging right now in our at-home environment, but there's really nothing that is better than just getting outside and going for a walk and making sure that you're getting that exercise regularly. And then another thing that we're finding too is sleep is very important. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself, taking time to manage stress and get some sleep.
Thank you, Chrissy. And Dr. Sandhu, anything you can add about how to prevent strokes, other things that you can do to just keep yourself healthy and help prevent those?
So I'll add to what Chrissy had just said. And this is also possibly where the telemedicine aspect of this whole prevention regimen comes in. What's good, like she said, for the heart is also good for the head. So in addition to doing all of those preventive measures, the management of risk factors that one might have, starting from hypertension, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stress, like she had mentioned. Diabetes is a big risk factor for stroke. And then people who have smoked in the past or are smoking, again, we're all cooped up, stressful times, more people are liable to go back to smoking. So all of those things, they need to be managed just as diligently, as closely, as well as they needed to be managed at the beginning of the year, December of last year. None of those things have changed. And I think that also is where this whole belated but newfound emphasis on telemedicine comes in, which is all of these things, they do not need you to physically step inside a physician's office in a clinic or in a hospital. These visits can be conducted, are being conducted. I've conducted my clinic visits with patients as far out as Rapid City. And all they've used is just a smartphone with a camera on it. And I am even able to show them images of a blood vessel, an aneurysm, something that we might treat in the future. So that's again, very important, not just for May, but forever, every month that has come before and will come from now. I mean, this is important. Nothing has changed. We still have this disease, which you mentioned earlier, takes the lives of as many Americans as it does. So nothing should stop people seeking care, and nothing should have them hesitate before they pick up the phone and call their physician's clinic or their office.
Very important information. Thank you, Dr. Sandhu, and thank you, Chrissy, for both joining us and sharing some more about Stroke Awareness Month. Thank you. Well, up next on Inside KELOLAND, the toll the pandemic is taking on South Dakota's #1 industry and how workers are trying to remain optimistic. Agriculture is an important industry in KELOLAND, and just like many other industries, it's getting hit hard by COVID-19. KELOLAND's Sarah McDonald explains what farmers and ranchers are facing.
It's the time of year where many farmers are out in their fields getting them ready and planting crops. But there are concerns about the impact COVID-19 is having on the ag industry.
I think the main concern for farmers is the demand destruction we're seeing in the livestock industry and also in the ethanol and corn markets and soybean markets. Our prices for corn are down $1 a bushel from where they were last year at least, and livestock prices are down, and for some producers, as far as hogs go, they can't even market their hogs now with many of the pork processing plants closed.
USD Associate Professor of Economics Catherine Birkland says there are some industries that can pause for now and restart when COVID-19 concerns are gone. That isn't necessarily the case in agriculture.
Agriculture doesn't really work like that, so we're not able to sort of pause the factory and restart later. So we are seeing some differences in our state as far as ag and tourism both, which have a time component, and so we likely will see a deeper recession here for those types of industries than we might see in other areas of the country where the businesses can start up quickly again once the public health concern is gone.
Jensen says while farmers try to remain optimistic, there's still uncertainty in the future.
We're planting our crops, but we don't have any price certainty at all. We don't know what we'll be marketing our crops for as price-wise goes, and that's going to affect also what goes on with the livestock industry too.
For KELOLAND News, I'm Sarah McDonald.
The South Dakota Farm Bureau has information online related to COVID-19 for those looking for resources. We provided a link under this story on KELOLAND.com. Construction season is well underway in the Sioux Falls School District. 3 projects are starting already. KELOLAND's Matt Holson shows you what's taking shape and how the pandemic is changing construction sites at the new Jefferson High and Ben Rifle Middle Schools.
$5.9 million worth of work is getting underway at Robert Frost, Horace Mann, and Laura Wilder. That work is getting a jump start, according to Jeff Kreider with the Sioux Falls School District.
A lot of things starting to take shape and happened, and it's keeping us hopping.
As you can see, Robert Frost Elementary is getting quite the facelift with no students around.
We're building a new security entrance with administration, expanding the gymnasium, and then providing 2 ADA restrooms for kindergarten classrooms.
Does it speed up the process for any of these projects?
Well, we were planning on starting the exterior portion, but we've been able to break in and do some of the renovations inside on all these already. If you drive by Horace Mann, they tore the front part of the building down that we're tying into yesterday. So yeah, we're able to get started in a few critical areas inside where we weren't going to do that till after kids and teachers were out about May 25th.
As for the new Jefferson High School and Ben Rifle Middle School, both are still on schedule to be ready by the fall of 2021. Kreider says some materials are hard to come by right now, leading to some alterations.
This virus, we've had some issues with having to change some, materials, ceramic tile that was coming from Italy that you can't get for 20 weeks or whatnot, and even then you don't know.
On top of that, construction crews are adding protective measures to stay healthy.
It has impacted the construction. They've got so many different things. We have our project meetings online now, and they've got wash stations. There's social distancing on site. So there's a lot going on site that you've never seen before. So it's interesting times.
A lot going on, but work is still getting done. In Sioux Falls, Matt Holson, KELOLAND News.
Renovations at Laura Wilder Elementary include a stairwell elevator addition, along with some tutor rooms and offices. Crews will also renovate 8 bathrooms. Kreider says the elevator likely won't arrive in time for next school year. all because of coronavirus delays. Well, social distancing is nothing new for a group of women in Sioux Falls. What we can learn from the Perpetual Adoration Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament when Inside Kettleland returns. Welcome back to Inside Kettleland. Social distancing has been one of the most challenging adjustments for people in this age of pandemic. But for one small group of women in Sioux Falls, social distancing isn't an intrusion into their lives, it is their life. Self-isolation is a religious challenge for the Perpetual Adoration Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, who live separated from the outside world in their monastery near St. Joseph Cathedral. Kettleland's Perry Groten checked in with the sisters for some spiritual and practical advice for living life at a distance.
COVID-19 has taken a spiritual toll on the faithful of Sioux Falls. The Perpetual Adoration Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament have had to close their chapel to the public.
The chapel is empty, that's sad also. Yes.
The Adoration Sisters still pray continually in shifts inside the chapel. They've received many more prayer requests from the community during the pandemic.
We are praying for strength in our faith, to be strong in all this challenging time. We are praying for who are suffering. We are praying for who had a responsibility for help the other people.
Last summer, Eye on Kettleland gave you this rare look at the daily life of the sisters inside their Sioux Falls monastery. They still cook their own meals inside the kitchen, only now they wear face masks while preparing the food. They still sew garments for Catholic clergy, but now they also sew masks for people who need the protection.
Our life doesn't change because our routine continues every day. We wake up at the same time, we pray, we work because everything is inside.
The sisters were social distancing long before it became the first line of defense against COVID-19. They answered a spiritual calling of closing themselves off from the outside world so they could be open to the needs of others.
This is our life, is isolation most of the time here in the monastery.
People in the community are dropping off donations of fresh produce so that sisters don't have to leave their monastery to go grocery shopping.
Many people call us what we need, groceries, vegetables, fruits. They want to help us to stay home.
The sisters also keep 6 feet apart from one another, a task that's much easier since only 9 of them are now living inside the spacious monastery. But always, their thoughts are with the people who struggle with the medical and financial challenges of the pandemic.
Each human being is in our hearts, so we are suffering with all the people who are suffering now.
The sisters, experienced at spiritual social distancing, say families should strive to grow closer together during their time of self-isolation.
The parents to know more about their children, the children more to know about their parents, because before the parents need to go to work, the children to the school. But this is an opportunity to share each one of them, their lives.
The pandemic can be a test of faith for people of all religious beliefs. But the sisters say prayer can be a powerful antidote to the anxiety and anguish created by COVID-19.
My advice for the whole world is to ask God for His help. We are in His hands. And also ask for increase our faith, because it's something that really we need.
With Eye on Kettleland, I'm Perry Groten.
If you have a prayer request you'd like to email to the sisters, we have a link to their website on this story at kettleland.com. We spent a lot of time away from family, friends, and community members during this pandemic, and that's especially true for seniors. But as Kettleland's Kelly Volk shows you, some dancers are bringing them happiness and healing from a distance.
This is a healing dance. 12-year-old Avea Weston and her 3 siblings, all members of the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe, are performing outside of Dow Rummel Village in Sioux Falls.
We just thought that doing a healing dance will help them a little bit, and we can pray and hope that people get more better. while we dance for them, they could see us and like be happy.
They certainly do see the dancers, some watching from their balconies. It brings some normalcy back to Dalrymple Village, which has been under visitor restrictions since March 11th.
We need to give our people, our residents here at Dalrymple, a way to know that they're important and they're important to us and the entire community. We want to support each other that way.
I think it's just wonderful, very timely, and I love the Native American dances anyway.
And this particular dance may be just what the community needs right now.
I'm just hoping that people can watching us get happy and hoping that all of our prayers and healing songs that we do help them.
In Sioux Falls, Kelly Volk, KELOLAND News.
Graduation day is approaching for students across KELOLAND, but the pandemic is keeping people from gathering in large groups to celebrate. As KELOLAND's Sydney Thorson explains, some schools are now hosting the special event in a unique way.
Hallways and classrooms usually aren't this quiet around this time of year at Black Hills State University. The same goes for graduation, because it's going to be a virtual ceremony.
It's just a little upsetting, but also I'm trying to remind myself that it doesn't take away from what we've accomplished. I mean, we're still going to get that degree.
Katie Nielsen, a graduating senior at BHSU, says she is grateful for the time she had at the university and that she still gets to celebrate her big accomplishment, even if it is a virtual setting.
I would never want to put anybody at risk, their health at risk, especially grandparents or people with autoimmune disorders or other immune deficiencies. So
they're helping other people, and I think that that's hopefully some solace to them as well. And just knowing that what they're doing is for the greater good.
Nate Dykert has been a professor at Black Hills State for 7 years. Like most people on campus, this is his first virtual commencement.
It's not about, a ceremony. It's more about the process of getting to that point. They still have all of those late nights, studying and cramming for tests and working on projects and, all the friendships that they've established that they can reflect on.
The graduation ceremony will be hosted on May 8th at 4 p.m. There will be links at the Black Hills State University webpage. In Spearfish, Sydney Thorson, KELOLAND News.
The graduation ceremony will also be displayed on the scoreboard at the university's football field for people to watch from a distance. South Dakota State University is also planning a virtual graduation on May 9th. The University of South Dakota is planning to host its graduation ceremony in the fall on October 24th. You can find out more about today's topics online at KELOLAND.com. Just click on the Inside KELOLAND section and join us every Sunday following the 10 o'clock news right here on KELO TV. That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to join us again next week for more on what's going on inside KELOLAND.